Reach high, aim high, and obtain.
We're making raspberry sauce. It looks like sauce of raspberries.
Frozen raspberries, although you can also do this with fresh raspberries, and basically put it in a pot, very liquidy, like this.
Yeah.
You can see no clumps, and this was actually from frozen, so when you got it in this consistency, what we're going to do is we're actually going to strain this through a cheesecloth to get all the juices out and make sure there's no seeds in the sauce. If you do just the raspberries themselves, just the frozen raspberries, and get them into this sauce consistency, which is where it's basically, it's just the seeds and it's very juicy like that, that I can just strain it like this, and everybody loves this to put on ice cream or cheesecake or just any kind of specialty dessert, and it works out perfectly without the need for doing added sugar or lemon juice or any of that. But you can do all that stuff to taste. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna put this in a cheesecloth and I'm gonna let it cool down in the cheesecloth so that when I can then handle it by hand so that I could squeeze it all really good, that I can do that. Okay, so now that the raspberries have been basically put down into a liquid form with the seeds in it, it's very gelatinous, as you can see here. There's two ways of doing this. This is a cheesecloth that is actually hemmed, and it's 2 layers here. Probably can't see it very well. There we go. There's 2 layers to this so that you don't have to be doubling over your cheesecloth. And I have a specific one set aside for doing the raspberries because it stained the cheesecloth. So this is the cheesecloth I've done. Now there is another way of doing this, which is this right here. You can see it's very triangular in appearance. But the way this is designed is you would put the sauce or whatever it is you're needing to have that really fine straining and the really fine results in here. You'd put a container underneath the stand here, and it comes with a special wooden piece that you basically turn the product around in to actually get the liquid to drain out down here below. This is great if you're needing to make things like a pea soup that needs to have that perfect even consistency. This is fabulous, and it does work beautifully in making raspberry sauce. But what I found is it takes a lot of time, and I found it tended to clog the holes a little bit on this, so I was always having to take extra special care to get this clean again for use. So that's how come I prefer personally the cheesecloth. That doesn't mean this doesn't work. It does beautifully. I just didn't like how it messed with the holes for me. That's just my personal preference, but I wanted to show you what your options were. So what I do is I gather all the ends of the cheesecloth, and I purposely put a funnel here. This is a canning funnel underneath a measuring cup, because that way the sauce can then be easily poured into whatever storage container I want, which is typically it's a special salad dressing glass container with a silicone pour spout so that it has a beautiful, easy pourability. But all you do is basically start squeezing. And because this has been doubled, I don't have to worry so much about things coming out. It's a very fine liquid. And you can either do it with frozen or fresh raspberries. I tend to like to do it with frozen raspberries because you're more guaranteed that the raspberries are ripe and they're at a good flavoring, versus if you're doing it fresh bought from the store where there might be a few in there that are questionable. And I did wait a few minutes because this was hot from the stove. So I did wait a few minutes before I started doing this directly with your hands like this. That's just a safety thing, unless you can handle the heat. But I personally, I wouldn't do it. I did it accidentally one time. I forgot it was fresh off the stove, and I went, woo, that was a hot one. So I'm going to show you what this looks like now after I've done the straining. And you'll see here, it's pretty much all seeds now. There's a little bit that I can see here of the moisture. So I'm going to give it a little bit of time to kind of settle. And then I'm going to squeeze it some more and see if we can get some more. Okay, so I'm going to give it another squeeze because, oh, see there? I'm getting some more. That's how come sometimes you want to let it just sit a little bit, because then it lets all those juices settle on the bottom of the cheesecloth. It's not a lot, but it's enough to justify doing this. And sometimes you want to squeeze it just a little bit to help it. See there? I'm getting a lot more now.
Awesome.
It takes some time and patience to do this. And again, your hands do get stained in doing this, but they won't stay stained for long if you wash your hands. It'll just become lighter, and then throughout the day, it'll become very non-existent. So when I do this, I tend to do this on the weekends. So I don't have to worry about people going, why is your hand so red? So, but you can see, and you can kind of feel the juices. Yeah, see how much I'm getting now? Because what I'm doing now, let me see if I can show you, is I'm manipulating it. See here? And I'm doing my best to squeeze all those juices out now. See, before I was getting the majority. Now I'm trying to get that last little bit. And you can see here, I'm getting a lot.
Quite a bit.
I know. But that's how come you kind of want to squeeze it. You want to keep your top well taut and squeeze, and you can see how I've got it rotated. But you want to manipulate it. See how much I'm getting now? See, now it's more than half a cup. Now, when I do this type of stuff, I usually do my my Japanese, what's it called? Salad dressing containers. We're going to the backup method, which is this container right here, which is an old maple syrup jar. So, but the main thing for me when I'm doing these kind of sauces is, one, I want the container to be pourable, and two, I also want to make sure that I'm avoiding storing it in plastic. I prefer to store as much stuff as possible in either glass or metal or ceramic. To me, I kind of look at it as, you know, whatever they did in the past, they knew what they were doing, kind of a deal. If it's a modern thing like a non-stick or what have, I don't believe in doing that kind of stuff. Now, I do silicone, and I acknowledge that, but I make sure it's food grade silicone that doesn't have anything added to the surface. And when I use the silicone, I use it for things that I freeze or put in the fridge, not for something I'm going to cook in. So that is something to bear in mind that I personally choose to do, but it's whatever floats your personal boat, you know? Okay, I think I've almost manipulated out everything possible from this thing. You can see how much more I got out of it, right?
It's quite a bit more.
Yeah, I got almost, but not quite a full cup. Just doing that extra little bit. And I'm still getting, you can see here, I'm still kind of getting some still. And that's how come I just prefer doing the cheesecloth with me. Okay, I think we're as manipulated it out as we can get it. Don't you think, Mom?
Oh, that looks good.
So now see how it's stuck onto the, see how dry it is? It's almost formed a ball. That's how dry it is. We're actually going to put this in a container because we actually make sure we use every drop as much as possible of a food product in this house. So what we do is we actually save these seeds, and my mom actually puts these in her smoothies. So you're getting nutritious activity from the seeds in your shake. And then what I'm going to do is, this stuff is actually stuck onto it. So what I'm going to do is rinse this under water and get all the seeds that are remaining on this cheesecloth off. And then this cheesecloth can actually be sterilized by putting it in boiling water for 15 minutes. And then I just let it air dry. And that way I can reuse this cheesecloth. So I'm going to put the cheesecloth to the side. And there's the funnel that I was using to get all that. Let me see if I can get this last little bit. There we go. Okay, so that got me almost, but not quite, a cup's worth of liquid out of 12 ounces of raspberries. And these were frozen raspberries. And then I'm just gonna pour this into this container. And this is just to make it easier when we're applying to our desserts. This is Mom and Dad's favorite sauce. People, you might like it sweeter than just the regular raspberries. And if that's the case, you can do the more French approach with a raspberry folie sauce, which is where you just add about 1/3 of a cup of sugar to it, and then about a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half, no more than about 2 teaspoons of lemon juice to it. And that way you have that balance of the sweet and the sour with the raspberry sauce. That's also another option. This way, and you can see, I mean, we got quite a bit of liquid out of the 12 ounces, but I did have to do the due diligence and the time consuming, and you can see how red my hands are. But it will be worth it, because my dad was like, please make me sauce, and I couldn't say no to him. So there you go. There's Dad's. His eyes are all excited off to the side, and we will enjoy that.